All right, so I'm going to have
so what do you want to talk about?
Yeah, so my takeaway from the twin slit experiment, which yes, I did do in my house, I got lasers, I very carefully made slits with fine pencil leads. I looked up the exact measurements for the distances between the slits and everything.
You have everything in your house to get the same precision as the original slit experiment.
Way beyond.
Even better. That blows me away.
Way beyond.
Wow.
Because I'm using lasers.
Oh, okay.
And so I observed the interference patterns from the things going through, and what that tries to tell you is that it's a wave, and then there are other experiments that tells you it's a particle.
That's right.
My take on this, and I think it's way simpler than it is explained, is that all energy is a wave until it interacts with something, and then it manifests as a particle. I think it's really simple. There's a version of the twin slit experiment where you interact with the photon before it goes to the slit. In other words, you observe it. Mm-hmm. It then manifests as a particle, and you no longer get the interference pattern. You get what you expect. You get two stripes of photons.
Yeah.
And I think it just means that as soon as you interact with something, it collapses into a particle. So the idea that something is a wave and a particle at the same time, completely untrue. It transitions. It's not that it transitions as, again, that it manifests as a particle as soon as you observe it.
I think that when we observe bosons, it's absolutely 100% clear evidence that we're living in a higher dimensional universe where we don't perceive all dimensions. And these bosons are existing. They have shape and form in the dimensions that we don't perceive. And when you measure them interacting with our universe in the dimensions that we perceive, you're just seeing the point at which the interaction occurs, because these bosons exist in a higher dimensional space that you and I literally cannot comprehend. Boom. We exist in a higher dimension. There's at least 11 dimensions. The math gets really simple when you have 11 dimensions. I don't know why it's 11. Might be more. Might be 16. It could be 11-5. We don't know. It could be an imaginary number of dimensions. We may need to invent a whole new math to decide it's not even a number of dimensions. We're just measuring harmonics, and there could be an infinite number of dimensions, right?
I've never objected to the idea of there being more dimensions than we see. And I think, like, stepping back even further, just the idea, just the sort of pompous, arrogant idea that we can actually see the universe as it is with our level of perception, it's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous that we even think that we know anything about anything, because we're observing the universe through our eyeballs and through now scientific instruments, but it's only limited to what we can even think of. And we're building this huge machine, CERN and Atlas and just really amazing stuff. But at the very bottom level, it's extremely crude. All we're doing is taking things and hitting them very hard. That's the entire premise of all particle physics, of all particle accelerators, is we're taking the biggest hammer, and we're trying to get that hammer. We're trying to go faster and faster and faster and hit things as quick as we can and with as much energy as we can. And all we're doing is blowing it up and trying to learn about the universe. And that is extremely crude. And we are arrogant, pompous asses for thinking we know anything about this stuff.
Let me ask you something. Can you see time?
Oh, God, don't get me started on time.
You agree that time is a dimension. We literally call the fabric that we exist in space-time.
Yeah.
But can you see time?
Yeah, so the semantics breaks down pretty quick, I think, because when people talk about time, they're talking about something that is very disconnected from space, in the sense that they seem like two completely different things. But yes, space and time and things being in 4 dimensions, it's not an analogy, it's not someone's imagination, it's quite literally how things work, and Einstein proved that, and it's really hard to get your head around.
If it wasn't the way things work, the planets would fall out of their orbits right now.
Well, they would follow Newtonian physics, right?
Everything would just go crazy.
Yeah, the idea that things are based on space-time instead of space and time is, I think, what helps inform our ability to understand why you can go faster than the speed of light. Because when you say you're going faster than the speed of light, it's not super meaningful, because time is not a specific thing and space is not a specific thing. So you can't go faster than the speed of light in space-time, but you can definitely go faster than the speed of light in space. You can go to Alpha Centauri in 12 years. I guarantee it.
No.
You just can't.
In order to get there fast, you have to just like explode a bunch of bombs behind you while you're a very small piece of mass with a camera attached to it and a Wi-Fi antenna, and that's how you get there fast. The part about going there, the real way to slow down and hang out there is that you have to slow down once you get there. And it's so hard to bring enough reaction mass to get up to near light speeds to get there quickly, and then to turn the ship around and point the engine in the other direction and then slow down. That's the problem. We can get there fast, but we just can't slow down because we can only send little tiny cameras to get there. We could send a camera that would get there in our lifetime. You and I could see shitty pictures of Alpha Centauri in our lifetime if engineers on Earth wanted to do that now.
All right, so put that all aside for 1 second.
Yes.
So here's the scenario. You don't have to worry about propellant because you just build, for the purposes of just this experiment, you build a really long track that's in space. You just put like a bunch of, you make a road that's in space.
A road in space?
Billions of miles long.
Can I hitchhike on this galaxy highway?
Probably.
Okay.
It would certainly be a waste of space.
Should I bring some things with me when I'm hitchhiking?
If you couldn't hitchhike, it would certainly be a waste of space. Okay. But anyway, you build a really long highway. So you no longer need propellant because you can just grab onto the highway and accelerate, okay?
Oh, I like that. It's like a cable car.
So stay with me. So you're on the highway and you're accelerating and you're using solar power from stars, and maybe you have a battery for the parts in between the stars, whatever.
I like batteries.
So, and then you accelerate up to 0.99 times the speed of light. And you can't go faster than that because your interaction with the track is limited by the speed of light.
Oh.
But you can accelerate up to the speed of light. Now, imagine you did that, but the entire time you were going on this track, you were bringing with you a Saturn V rocket.
Right.
Okay? When you get there and you no longer can use a track because you're at 0.99 times the speed of light relative to the track, you leave the track and you turn on your Saturn booster rocket. What do you think's going to happen?
I know exactly what's going to happen.
Are you going to go 0.99 and then stop because you need infinite energy?
Happen,
you're going to go faster than the speed of light.
I'm going to reach the speed of light, and exactly at that minute, I'm going to stick my ass out the window and moon Earth. And because that will be my final image that they'll ever see, because no other bosons will be able to reach them at that point, because I am now invisible to them, just like the other side of the universe. So kiss my ass, Earth, because guess what? I'm gone.
Brilliant idea, because the best part about that is that your ass, because you will be expanding and relative to theirs, your ass will actually expand
my
to
ass is already expanding,
infinite length. Your ass will expand.
No, they will measure my mass's ass as infinity, but that will not be the fact. I'll still be just like an old guy in a spaceship just saying "F you" to Earth.
Yeah.
And that would be so.
You stick out your ass, and I'm gonna do the middle finger.
Yeah, you do the middle finger. I'm gonna give him the sweet and hairy business.
In any case, the point of the experiment, the thought experiment, really, because a really long road is impractical.
No, it is.
Is that when you launch your Saturn V rocket at 0.99 times the speed of light, or 0.99, 0.999, whatever it is, just below the speed of light, and you turn on your Saturn rocket, it's not like you're not going to go. It's not like physics are going to change. You're going to continue to accelerate.
Okay.
No one disputes this. You know what's upsetting about that whole thing about the cosmological speed constant and all this is that when children first learn about this idea that you can't go faster than the speed of light, it just crushes every idea that they have.
And it's wrong.
And it's completely wrong.
False.
If
you can be anything you want to be, kids. You can go FTL.
I think about this because one of my aunts just posted on my Facebook. She's like, "Oh, your nephew would really be interested about this if he could understand it." And I just thought to myself, yeah, and he's probably been told the wrong thing already.
Yeah,
and
by
he's not going to believe me.
well-intentioned teachers who are teaching that kid a lot of things that he needs to know.
So I'm going to tell him that faster than light speed travel is possible.
Completely possible.
And he's not going to believe me.
He might be the first one to do it one day, because it's not going to be you and me. We're too old. But let me tell you this. So I get on this conveyor belt. It's the size of the Milky Way. And then I'm leaving the Milky Way. What happens when I attach myself to another conveyor belt and just keep accelerating after that? And then when I'm done with that conveyor belt, I ditch it, and I get another, and I pick up on another conveyor belt, and I latch onto it, and I go even.
What about a conveyor belt on a conveyor belt? So the conveyor belt
that's the turtle on the unicorn.
Is yeah, it's the same thing. So the first conveyor belt makes the second one go 0.99 times the speed of light.
Of them? Now you have an infinite number of conveyor belts.
And then like a guy gets on the conveyor belt, and just as the conveyor belt is about to leave the first conveyor belt, the second is about to leave the first, the guy gets on the second one and just keeps going.
This is probably the founding principle of the first warp drive. Hey, remember when you invented that perpetual motion machine?
That story is actually about the internet.
Like, when you showed me that, I kind of fell in love with you in a dude way. Not, I mean, like, I'm a hetero guy. But, like, you showed me sketches that you had made as a young man that you had created a perpetual motion, like, infinite energy machine. And I was like, man, I was drawing robots that transformed into airplanes. That's what I was doing when you were drawing that. I felt very... My insecure about myself.
Oh, well, that's ridiculous because I was very wrong. Awesome. I was very wrong is the thing. And this story,
you were wrong, but you tried.
This story is actually about the internet because what happened was I learned about a bunch of stuff from the internet using Wikipedia or whatever it was in 1998. I don't even remember anymore.
The early internet?
The early internet. I read a bunch of stuff.
There wasn't Wikipedia back then, yeah.
There wasn't a Wikipedia, but I read stuff and I was learning stuff. And then I stopped having the internet because I moved out of my parents' house into this, my first place away from my parents.
Right.
During the time that I stopped having internet for... about a year and a half or so, I got this idea that I could invent perpetual motion. And like you said, I had diagrams. I built little Lego prototypes and I tested them and was trying to get information. And I was like certain that I was able to do this.
You were on the cusp of like a breakthrough in humanity.
Yeah. And I convinced the girl that I was dating at the time that I was about to do this. And she was just like, really in love with me.
She was like, hey, Dad, I'm dating this guy. He's a genius.
And then what happened was my parents went out of town and they wanted me to house sit for them.
Go check on their house for a weekend,
and I went to their house and I had the internet. I had the internet for just a few hours. I logged on and I was like, perpetual motion. Tell me, give me everything you got, and then realized it was a crushing blow. Once I started reading stuff and realizing that this is not something I can do because of thermodynamics. And
What's thermodynamics?
And I hadn't been to college yet, and I was crushed. And in one instant, I went from the conspiracy theory, I'm going to invent perpetual motion, to the biggest skeptic in the world.
That optimism is so beautiful,
my entire worldview changed in that instant. And that's why I can sit here now and look at things about atheism, look at things about conspiracy theory, and have that skeptical kind of mind to it.
Do the slit experiment in your living room.
In my house to prove to myself personally. Yeah. That was a very pivotal moment in my life.
You saved the drawings,
and it's about the internet.
Yeah,
and because without the internet, you can go on a very long tangent.
Well, one could also argue that without the internet, you might have accidentally invented perpetual motion machine.
Oh, wow, that's depressing. I mean, I still have some ideas that might work. I haven't tested them yet. You're right.
I think your perpetual motion machine is dead.
DNR. I mean, if people could just stop being so dumb and saying incorrect things, I wouldn't correct them all the time.
You know what I wish people would do is in the comment section of these YouTube videos, correct us when we're wrong.